We have come to a very interesting part of this second PSU Take Conclave, the only fireside chat session with Mr. Golok Kumar Simli, Principal Advisor and Chief Technology Officer, Passport Seva Program, Minister of External Affairs, Government of India. Topic: securing data and safeguarding privacy. Are PSUs ready for the demand of the new digital age? I request Mr. Simli to come on stage, please. A huge round of applause for. I think Mr. Simli doesn't need any introduction. I think most of us sitting here today know him for last 25, 30 years. He's a technology governance leader, if I may say so, for having experienced more than 30 years. Out of that, if I'm not wrong, I think you were part of that national e-governance plan, which was envisaged in 2005-6. And then almost 15 years you have been with Government of India, and before that, you have been part of RBI and other government agencies. You're known, Mr. Simli is known as a governance tech leader over the years. And so straight coming to the point, Mr. Simli, do you think that PSUs are ready for the demand of the new age? That is, when it comes to securing data or data privacy. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sovik, your entire team, the partners for having me here. I think today we are discussing on a topic which is need of the day, which I'll say, I think whether I come from government, you and me as an individual, or someone sitting here from our industry colleagues. Now, everything if we see on the security side, since many of our previous speakers have spoken about the security challenges, end-to-end, the product and solutions, what they are offering to us. But let me put you some different perspective on the security, data, privacy at large. Now, when you see on the government parlance, and when you see on the data, security, privacy, and how do you deal with that, I think I'll start saying that when we think with a population scale. Let's say I am talking about data, I am talking about security, I am talking about more than 1.4 billion people, right? I am also talking about the demography, the geography, the literacy, the kind of educations, variations, right? Even I am also talking about rural, urban, the kind of a dividend we have. Now, if you look holistically the security in that sense, where we need to start, no? And to my mind, when we are working on these big programs, these big transformation programs or a government scheme, the idea is threefold. The first fold is how do you really identify whether it's a person, it's a device, it's a communication channel. How do you really identify that? Can you really identify, right? So the identity channel. It's very important if you are building security, establishing the identity. Where it is coming from, how is it coming from, where is it traveling, how is it traveling, who is actually traveling. The second fact comes to my mind is the data exchange platform. Where all and which are the channel it is traveling, right? Whether it is your on-prem data center, whether it is between a service provider and a customer, whether between kind of its employees and the users, or it is between a organization and service seekers or citizens, right? So the data exchange, how is it happening? And when I say data exchange, do you really understand what kind of data you are dealing? Is it a sovereign data? Is it a fiduciary data? Is it a personal data, non-personal data? What kind of data? Are you really going detail into it? Are you really in a position saying that what is the before action I should take? What is the during action I should take in terms of any sort of security incidents or security alert you are getting? So before scenario, during scenario, and after effect, right? So that is another very major concern. And the third biggest channel is the payment. So these are the three channels, identity, data exchange, and payment. Is three ecosystems, anything and everything you do today, right? It exists. Here and there it exists. And if you understand the channel end to end, things become easy, right? And that is what our approach is. Even if I am looking passport seva security at large, that is the channel I am taking. Now, another kind of a three, which we say 3 to 4, another important aspect of security is whenever you are talking or whenever you are communicating or whenever you are doing any sort of a service delivery, there is something called you need to connect, right? Before you do anything, you need to connect. I need to connect to Sovikji before even if I speak to him. I must know about Sovikji. I need to understand about what is his profile, background, the kind of bandwidth, match, this and that. And if once I identify, then I need to connect. This probably you are speaking, but in security sense, IT sense, OT sense, that is the way you connect. And once you connect, the next phase is the communicate, right? Then you need to communicate what sort of communications channels you have established, right? Whether it is a on-prem, whether it is a cloud, whether it is, as I said, between IT to OT, it is OT to OT, it is IT to IT, what kind of channel? Again, that detailing do you really have? And while you are doing these two things, again, connect and communicate, the idea is that enablement, that digital enablement. Let me quote a small example here, right? When we started this Passport Seva program somewhere in, or why only Passport Seva program, any of these big programs, whether it is Aadhaar, Passport, GSTN, income tax, whatever I name it. But since I am now heading Passport, so let me talk about Passport. Before Passport Seva, in and around we have employee strength of 3,000, right? Now these 3,000 employees, earlier they are fully on paper pen, right? Fully, almost 15, 20 years. And suddenly when we brought in Passport Seva, the first problem was how do I enable them digitally, right? Even if I enable them digitally, are they really able to communicate what the way I want to communicate, the digital way, or the digital way they want to work? So that kind of alignment, realignment, training, skilling, reskilling, and today, let me tell you, Soviji, those 3,000 employees are my today's digital warrior. I tell them digital warrior. Why is so? Because they understand that digital ethics, they understand that digital code which I want to drive upon them, right? So that enablement when you are trying to connect and communicate is utmost important. The last, which is absolutely kind of a, on the dot one should take when we are defining this, end-to-end security, whatever you name it zero trust, you name it intrinsic, you name it end-to-end, these are all, I say, innovation of or the term which is coined by our colleagues, right? But what is that we are looking? Ultimately, what is that we are looking? That is the customer, the citizen, the customer experience, the citizen experience. I just speaking with some of the booth here outside. I said, okay, fine. You are doing a convergence of IT and OT. I agree, which is needed, very much needed. Kind of the space we are dealing like the critical sectors, it's more or less all IT, OT space. But when it comes to dealing with that or reaching to the customer somewhere or other, we are taking help of IT. Right? I say, fine, you are converging, doing a convergence technology solution is fine. But then tell me, once you converge these IT and OT, can I have that complete visibility? Can I have that complete observability at one side? And the other side is, can I also have the kind of impact you are giving to the customer, which is the end user and the citizens? So what is the value add ultimately you are doing? So if I can start from there, when I'm converging between IT and OT, I think that is the approach one should take, rather other way, looking into the solution, going to the impact or the business value and the criticality attached to it. Let me quote another example, Sovikji. Saying that suppose my power transmission network is dying. It's a complete blackout in Delhi, let's say. Assume that there is a complete blackout. No, it's okay, all fine, whatever solution we thought about, whatever, no, we talk about the portfolio product, about convergence and IT and OT, but what is the impact on the customer, on the citizens when there is a, let's say, 24 hours blackout, or let's say we talk about EMS example, right? Though they could not introduce into the OT space, but the EMS network was down for a month almost. Entire services was down. They were all doing manual. So the impact, if you measure, can you measure the impact in terms of value proposition, in terms of the business? And then you come out and tell us saying that, okay, this is how I will propose the solution. The problem we start is, you come to us, explain us the solution, starting from the product and portfolio. No, that's not the approach. Half of us, we do not understand your approach. Our approach is, our decision maker approach is my citizen first, my customer first, my impact first, my critical infrastructure impact first, not the other way. So that's how I put it. So
it actually brings us to that point. When we started this conference today in the morning, we had speaker from the government of West Bengal, Mr. Sanjay Das, Joint Secretary IT. He's sitting in front. He was also touch basing upon this kind of point, and in his presentation he talked about almost 40% of cyber attacks has happened last year in Indian public sectors of the total attacks. And you have rightly said that one is building digital warriors in your organization, evaluating the analysis, impact, and then come with solution. But at the same time, I would like to ask you, maybe the last question to you, that we know the problems. Where are the problems, right? So what should be our digital transformation roadmap in terms of cyber security for the public sector undertakings, because we are talking about critical infrastructure. And again, I'll go back to that presentation. It is shown that perhaps largest numbers of cyber attacks have been done in critical infrastructures in India in last year. So what will be your mantra for the public sector undertakings, maybe 1 year down the line, 2 years down the line, quickly in a 5 minutes?
Yeah, the mantra is very simple. See, as I said, what is that you are trying to achieve at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, you are trying to achieve kind of some sort of a service or some sort of a schemes or some sort of a, let's say, product, portfolio, this and that, right? At the end of the day, that's the motto. Whether we are in government, somebody in organization or so and so, or you are in media houses. So you are addressing some customer base. You are addressing some citizen base, right? And when you are saying so, the digital transformation journey one should look forward is how do you create that environment, which is, I always say, it should be a consentless, it should be a paperless, it should be kind of a cashless, maybe it should also be a presenceless, right? And when you are thinking on those 3-4 pillars, right? And then you start your digital transformation journey. Believe me, all these solutions you are looking after, all this thought process, it is going into your kind of a designing, developing, whether one side the infrastructure, other side the application, third side the devices and products, and at the end, whether it is an end user, a customer, or your own employees or organization at a large. That is one mantra I always give. The second mantra of this holistic digital transformation must be and ought to be holistic. We must not look or we must not take a silo approach in any case. If you are taking a silo approach in terms of data, in terms of people, in terms of processes, in terms of your rules of engagement, let me, since we are all talking about security, we must not forget the rules of engagement, whatever you have. And those rules or engagements are nothing but your compliances, your regulations, your available acts, whatever department you are, and law of the land. And last but not the least, the tools and technologies, whatever you are thinking and trying to kind of develop the solutions, these tools and technologies must speak out the truth when you are looking holistically in terms of people, processes, deployment models, rules of engagement, and at the end, tools of technology. If you have that kind of a holistic approach and holistic view of the digital transformation journey becomes easier, journey becomes smoother, the impact becomes huge. Today, whatever we are doing, whether it is Aadhaar enablement, whether it is a UPI, whether I am doing a passport service transformation, whether it is GSTN, these are world's best example. And why is that? Why is that? The answer is because it is holistic, the impact is at a population scale, and there is no match globally, right? And that's how I'll put it, the
So
digital
I think
journey must be.
I finished this fireside chat by taking what you have said at last, that moving forward for digital transformation with having a holistic approach and thinking about the possible impact and then preempting that impact and coming up with solution. Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you.
Simli.
Thank
Always
you,
pleasure
Sohit.
interacting with you. That a huge round of applause for him, please. It was Golab Kumar Simli, Principal Advisor, Chief Technology Officer, Passport Seva Program, Minister of External Affairs, Government of India. I request Mr. Rajneesh De, Consulting Editor of APAC News Network, to come on stage and hand over a souvenir to Mr. Simli.